It started with a drought, not the metaphorical kind, an actual government-declared, lawn-scorching, water-restricting drought. By the third straight month without rain, our suburban neighborhood in northern Arizona looked more like a faded postcard from the Dust Bowl. Sprinklers were outlawed, car washes closed, and every other house had a dying lawn draped with, "Please excuse the brown grass, we're saving water" signs. That's when I decided to have a little fun. See, I'm the state meteorologist. Rain patterns, atmospheric models, climate anomalies. These things are my life. But sometimes science needs a side of humor to keep spirits high. So I organized a small neighborhood gathering, the first annual Oakwood Rain Dance Revival. It was meant to be symbolic. Kids in ponchos, parents with drums and noisemakers, and me standing in the middle of the cul-de-sac in a rain-patterned Hawaiian shirt, performing a wildly unscientific but completely joyful dance routine. It was silly, lighthearted, and educational. I even gave a short talk on high-pressure systems and La Niña conditions. People laughed. A few neighbors joined in. For a dry community, it was the happiest we'd looked in months. Until the letter arrived. A certified envelope from the HOA. Notice of violation, unauthorized assembly, and disruption of community standards. The offense? Staging a ritualistic public display not in alignment with approved HOA activity protocols. Fine, $250. I blinked. Ritualistic? Apparently someone had reported the rain dance as disturbing and potentially offensive, citing Section 7.4 of the HOA Charter. Residents must not conduct personal ceremonies or gatherings that could be construed as religious, superstitious, or non-secular in nature. In other words, they thought I was casting spells, so I requested a formal hearing. Karen, yes, her real name, chaired the HOA board, flanked by two other members who looked equally unsure whether they were running a neighborhood or a theocracy. Karen cleared her throat. "Mr. Ellis, your event was unapproved and gave the impression of weather manipulation." I stifled a laugh. "That's ironic," I said, pulling out my business card and sliding it across the table. "Dr. Matthew Ellis, state meteorologist. My entire job is weather manipulation, or at least prediction." They blinked. I continued. "I lead the state's drought mitigation task force. The gathering was part meteorology outreach, part morale boost. It was neither religious nor ceremonial. It was educational. Besides, I have a right to assemble, and there were no noise complaints, no trash left behind, and no prohibited equipment used." Karen sniffed. "But you were dancing." I nodded. "In the shape of a frontal boundary." Silence. 2 days later, the fine was rescinded. Not only that, but the Department of Natural Resources reached out to me to formally recognize the event as a positive example of community science engagement during environmental crises. The local paper ran a piece titled, "Meteorologist Sparks Storm of Joy in Drought-Stricken Suburb." Ironically, a week later, no joke, we had our first rain in 93 days. Now we've turned the Rain Dance Revival into an annual event. No HOA fines, just fun. Karen still watches from her porch, arms crossed, but she hasn't said a word since. And every time I see a neighbor break into a little weather wiggle on their driveway, I smile. Science works, so does humor. But apparently nothing clears storm clouds quite like a meteorologist doing the worm in a Hawaiian shirt.